he throws the guy off the roof and he puts him in a coma.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he'll live. That's not crossing the line for Matt. I feel like maybe the audience's thoughts and feelings on that is reflected in Claire, who's, you know, like the most reasonable person in this show. He's like, the fuck, like, just put this guy in a coma, like, well, it's fine as long as you didn't kill him. What the hell kind of morality do you live by, mate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like when he says, I think to your point exactly, Matt goes, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. And we don't know if he's lying. Neither does Claire. And it's like, and then he pushes the dude off the roof, and you're like, wait, hang on. Does he? Hang on. And and then Claire says, I don't believe you enjoy this, which I think is really interesting. And I think she's right in some regards. I think it comes back to the compulsion that we talked about. It's not that he enjoys it, it's that he has to. Like, he needs it. It's which is in itself like kind of a grim sort of sense of enjoyment of a thing, where it's sort of like it's like disgustingly pleasant to give in to like these urges, even though he doesn't want to.
And I feel like Matt doesn't really have, at this point, that much of an issue about letting his soul become darker, because it'll make it easier for him to do what he does. And so he doesn't really have a moral crisis as of yet. It's only when he starts sort of like, confiding in Claire about like all his thoughts about being Daredevil, is that when he starts to be like, you know, maybe she has a point about losing my humanity and stuff like that.
Well, because I guess currently he doesn't really have a reason to. He's kind of just going unchecked and like doesn't really have anyone that he's close to aside from Foggy.
Claire is such a good foil for Matt, like throughout all 3 seasons. Wait, is she in the 3rd season?
No, she ends up going into she and Luke Cage pair off in Luke Cage season 2, and she kind of goes away from Daredevil.
Yeah, she's in season 2, and it gets expanded more in that as well.
Yeah,
especially like there's a scene where Matt won't visit Foggy in the hospital, and she's like, you know, why don't you come down off your cross and hang out with us normal people for a change?
Brutal.
It's some good stuff.
Yeah, fucking talking truth right there. Jesus, it's so textured and enjoyable. Like, there's so much to think about. Off the back of this moment where Claire's like, I don't believe you enjoy this. Nat and Jack, in their separate timelines, both decide to get up and finish the fight, even though they know it's probably going to kill them. Jack does it to financially secure Matt's life and dies. And then Matt gets up to save this kid and succeeds. And there is just this, like, they refract off each other in such a really compelling way. It just makes you want to like sink your teeth in and be like, what does that mean for Matt? Like the fact that he's able to do what his father never could, because his father was always under the boot of this system and these organized criminals. Like, he's able to kind of he's able to fight back in a way that his dad necessarily couldn't on his behalf. And his dad had to make the sacrifice, like you say, on the cross, right? Had to become the Messiah to save Matt, whereas Matt has the opportunity to keep fighting and to sort of to find a slightly different way of doing it.
You know, Jack's motivations are quite puzzling to me. Like,
okay.
And I haven't. I mean, was he suicidal? Because I just don't see how he could do what he did without knowing that it would like get him killed. And
he knows it's going to get him killed.
Yeah, but he has Matt to look after. He obviously loves Matt, but he just chooses to peace out anyway. And you know, he says like, oh, you know, he's securing Matt's future like financially. But I think they explore this a bit in season 3. Matt says, you know, he would rather have a dad than money. Yeah. So if you take what you said and put it in the context of if he was suicidal, that's some dark shit. Like, you know, because he was just, his prospects looked so hopeless and bleak. He was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna you know, get myself killed so that I I can secure the future for my son, and but also, you know, a bit there's a reveal that a little bit of that motivation was because he actually wanted, you know, the fame and the glory.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is
yeah.
like there's two ways you can read the fight that he agrees to participate in. One of them is he wanted the fame and the glory, and the other is like he wanted Matt to finally be proud of him for once, which I think is a really interesting if that's true and that's how we choose to read it. It's a really interesting misread of like what Matt values in his dad. Because, like, as you say, Matt says, like, I'd much rather have a father than, like, money and this one memory to look back on. And that, to me, kind of feels like that's where I think if we read it that way, the way that Matt goes after the kid is he's like, if I can save this kid who still has a family and has, like, his whole life still ready for him, that's worth getting back up for. It's not worth sacrificing myself, you know, in the absence of someone else's fulfillment or something. Like, I don't know. I guess it depends how you look at it. Because my assumption was always, or my reading was always like, that Jack does it because he thinks that Matt, he thinks that it will make a difference for Matt if Matt can finally see him, you know, win a fight for once. Which
I think that is the most salient takeaway from this whole Jack sequence. I honestly, I think this thing about like suicide wasn't really considered when early in this show. It comes back up in season 3.
It does, yeah. Or perhaps to reframe suicide, perhaps death wish is the right kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Like literally ever. That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because he's so tied into the mob and like he just can't get out at all.
Yeah, and you know, it's like, again, like to what you were saying, like Matt has the tools to deal with stuff like this now. Or not. He has the tools to deal with this kind of stuff. And so I feel like there's kind of always hope for Matt that he can do good in the world. Whereas, you know, you take like Battling Jack's position, being, you know, being under the feet of mobsters and you know, broke and you know, he can't achieve glory to make his son proud of him. Like, yeah, it's just, I think it's pretty bleak.
Bleak is sort of how I describe Jack Murdoch's like life. Like I don't know, raising a single kid, that kid gets, you know, in this horrible accident, and I think there's a really interesting conflict in Jack's perception's not quite what I mean. In Jack's comprehension of like his son and their relationship, where like, you know, Matt, the reason that Matt ends up blind is because his son did the right thing. And so when I was talking before about this conflict of like Jack's material conditions with his philosophy, his son enacted the philosophy that Jack is trying to teach him. And the result of that was like this horrific incident that scars Matt for life and completely changes the trajectory of his life. And then the outcome of following his philosophy for Jack is that he is like under the thumb of these mobsters and his life is not his own. And the only way that he can exert any influence over his own life whatsoever is to die. And there's this way in which Jack's kind of philosophy and that this focus on your utility as someone that can get up when you're injured, or you know, it's not about the fact that you hit the mat, it's about how you get up. Like that has like ruined the Murdoch family in a really interesting way, and the only recourse to that is that they have, you know, the devil and the Murdoch boys have the devil inside. There's something there. I don't know what it is yet. I'm sure we'll find out as the show goes on and they expand it a bit. But there's something there about like whatever this guy thought is the way that you should approach the world. It didn't work, and Matt's just doing the same thing again, kind of.